Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss books and horror. And today I'm here to talk to you about books that include cursed movies.
It's coffee time!
There have been some recent releases that include books and cursed movies, so I thought I would make a video and recommend you a couple of books that include exactly that, cursed films. Cursed films are those movies that either during filming or production had very strange occurrences. This includes cast members, directors, and the crew and people involved with the movie, and it is really interesting to see all of the rumors sometimes that especially horror movies had when it comes to cursed sets, one of them being of course The Exorcist. While these movies might not be under a real curse, one cannot help but wonder if all of these accidents, let's say, are just like coincidences. We also have movies with other freak accidents like The Omen or one of my favorite movies of all times, The Crow. It would be quite interesting to actually see in real life a cursed tape, something similar to The Ring. Or maybe not, because that means that you're gonna start a battle against time in order to save your own life. But unfortunately, or actually fortunate for us, these are only fictional stories. Since I recently read a book about cursed movies, I thought I would compile a little list for you guys. So here are some book recommendations, and let's start obviously with the one that started it all, and that is Burn the Negative by Josh Winning. That is basically a release from just July 2023, so really fresh. This was a perfect combination of a homage to a slasher horror movie combined with the grief and trauma of being a child actor. I think this is gonna appeal also a lot of, horror fans, since it does reference many other horror movies. Our main character here is Laura. When she was a kid, she was an actor, and one of her main roles was in a 90s movie, a slasher called The Guest House. And after the movie wrapped, there were rumors that the set was cursed because the crew and members that were doing this film started all dying in mysterious circumstances. Basically, everybody involved in the movie are either dead or behind bars. Laura wanted to forget everything about that, about her past as a child actor, but then Hollywood decided to reboot this movie 30 years later and turn it into a TV show. Laura is now a journalist, and she will have to travel back to LA to interview the new director of this reboot and confront her inner demons. This is a horror mystery that offers a lot of fun. It has some interesting twists and turns to the story, and I think, like I said, if you are a horror fan, you might enjoy it. Then of course we have Ring by Koji Suzuki, which is the one that started it all in a way, for me at least, because that is the first horror movie that I ever saw that had this kind of cursed film idea. In the movie we have a mysterious tape, and when you watch the tape you have exactly 1 week. After the week is over, you die. And we have a journalist that is really intrigued about these recent deaths and starts to investigate, and of course comes across this videotape. This is a rich, chilling horror story full of tension as you follow this journalist trying to figure out what is behind this tape before his week is over, before time runs out for him. If you have already seen the movie, the broad story is still the same, but there are many different little details that are specific to the book, so I would still recommend you to pick it up. And it would be interesting if anybody that has not seen the movie yet reads the book first, because I wonder, what the reaction would then be, because there's some twists and turns to the story. But for the people like me that watch the movie first, then some of those twists are kind of already, something that we know. Then we have Flickr by Theodore Roszak. We have Jonathan, and he is a film enthusiast, and he comes across some obscure movies by a weird director. So Jonathan thinks, if he studies the tapes and talks about them, it might be something that might help his career. But he is kind of wrong in that, because the more he studies the tapes, the more he is starting to learn that there is a big secret that is kept in those tapes. This is a horror book, but also it has some film theory, and it's also a conspiracy thriller, so there's a lot of elements here that add to the tension. It is a well-paced book that I think will appeal also to people that love film noir. There's also a lot of descriptions, of shot analysis, about behind the scenes stuff, so a lot of horror buffs might really enjoy this as well if you like film. Also for people that love art house movies. Throat Sprockets by Tim Lucas. A young advertising executive is really bored with his life, so he spends a lot of his time watching adult films. And that is when he comes across a movie called Throat Sprockets, and that's when his fascination for this movie starts, and it's a movie that is obsessed about women's throats. This is honestly one of those that it is a bizarre journey for our main character that remains nameless, and you have the visits to these kind of theaters where the adult films are being played. But unlike the other books that are mentioned here, this is more a story about somebody that is obsessed with a film. It does touch on topics like censorship and stuff like that. So this might be a more serious approach and less of the you're gonna die in 7 days kind of approach to curse films. It's kind of erotic, but it's also very disturbing, so it is quite an interesting mix that might not appeal all readers. But if you are curious about it and you didn't know about this book, be my guest and give it a shot. Demon Theory by Stephen Graham Jones, that, if I am not mistaken, I think was his first novel. It is Halloween night, and Hale receives a phone call from her mother that is diabetic, is sick, and decides to go together with some friends to the mother's house to check on her, and it's also the house where her sister had disappeared. When they get to the house, they realize that their mother is not there, but there is something else in the house that has been waiting for Hale for a very long time. The book has a lot of pop culture references, it has a lot of subtext, and it is a book that has footnotes. So if you're somebody that enjoyed House of Leaves and that kind of style, then I can recommend you to check this one out. The novel is basically a novelization of a trilogy of horror movies, and there are 3 different sections in the book, and the characters are reshuffled and reassigned different roles in every movie of the trilogy, which I thought was really interesting, almost like watching the Hunting trilogy from Mike Flanagan, because now we're gonna get finally the 3rd one. We had The Hunting of Hill House, The Hunting of Bly Manor, and this year we're getting The Hunting of the House of Usher. So you have to see it something like that, where the same director, or in this case writer of the book, is reshuffling and reassigning the same actors a different role. It's told in a screenplay format, and like I said, there are footnotes, so this is a very interesting way of telling a story, a very different type of book. So if that's something that you're looking for and you have not read this one yet, you might want to check it out. Also, if you've enjoyed other things by the author. The Green of the Dark by Ramsey Campbell, another well-established author in the horror community, and it follows Tubi. Tubi was a comedian and he was so funny, people would laugh themselves to death sometimes, but now his career is kind of completely declined and there's not much left of him as a comedian apart from some movies that he did. Disgraced film critic Simon is determined to re-establish the reputation of Tubi and bring him back to life. So Simon starts to kind of investigate, tries to find footage on Tubi, tries to find some videos of him, and the things he starts finding are quite unnerving. He seems to be a comedian, somebody that wants to make people laugh, but there's also something very eerie, very odd about Tubi. Night Film by Marissa Bessel, and this is another book that is told in mixed media. I think a lot of the books that are related to films and cursed films, they love to put mixed media in them, and I absolutely love it because, having snippets of screenplays or pictures, it helps a lot. Scott McGrath is a veteran journalist that lost his reputation when he tried to expose a famous horror director. The director is called Stanislav Cordova, and basically after his daughter died and it was rumored that it was suicide, that is when our journalist decides to get into investigating. When he starts to investigate the movies that this horror director has done, he is starting to do raise a lot of questions about the origin of the movies, why they are so dark, why they are so effective. Even though the book is fast-paced, we do talk here about exploitation, the occult, violence, and how sometimes we demonize people that are art geniuses. A lot of people have been saying this is a truly disturbing book, so proceed with caution, I guess, with some of these books because some of them can be quite intense. Next we have Neon Phantoms, A Tale of Movie Obsession, and it is by Sean McCloy. Hal is a manager of a video store and he has watched way too many movies already, but then he discovers the copy of a 1970s horror movie called The Jack-o'-lantern Man, a movie that he has never seen. And he feels really compelled to watch it, so for the next couple of days he watches and rewatches the movie on loop. The more Hal watches the movie, the more he gets a recurrent dream, almost like a nightmare. He's transported into an empty auditorium and he can hear screams of people next to the exit sign. This blends supernatural elements with film history and black humor. And you could even say that this is similar to the Italian horror movies, the Giallo movies. So if you love those, then maybe check this book out. Next we have Experimental Film by Gemma Files. The story begins with Iris, an experimental filmmaker that one day mysteriously disappears. And then Louis, an ex-critic, finds a film, a snippet of something that Iris had been working on, and that is gonna bring to light a lot of the things that were secrets, a lot of the things that might explain why Iris disappeared. It is a novel of suspense with some folklore horror and also touches on film history. There's also a strange supernatural presence to it, and when you are reading the book, you really feel like all of the film knowledge that is put into it. It is a compelling plot that is drawing us to all of those secrets and is a book that is going to make you want to figure out what's happening. And last but not least, we have Memento Mori, The Fathomless Shadows by Brian Hauser. Underground filmmaker Toni Mori became a legend in the late 1970s when she stole a camera, and with it she recorded some Super 8 shots, but then she mysteriously disappeared. It's something that we have been seeing. People disappear, filmmakers disappear, and then their movies are being found. I think it's a common theme that is used for this type of books. So of course people are going to be curious to see what happened to her, what is the reason for her disappearance, so they're going to go to her works to try to figure it out. But the story is also told through some letters. There's also a homemade, kind of like a fan horror movie made about it. There is also the memoirs of the college roommate that Toni had. So with the help of all of these different types of documents, we are going to have to figure out who Toni really was, why she disappeared, what happened to her, and if she's still alive. And as a bonus, I have a short horror story compilation for you guys in case you're interested to kind of just tiptoe a little bit your way into the Cursed Movies books, in case that the other novels that I have spoken about perhaps might be a little bit too intense for you. At least these are short horror stories. So it is called Lost Films and it's edited by Max Booth III and Laurie Michel. These are 19 stories that all revolve around a film festival, which I thought it was a really cool idea to kind of tie them together all in this film festival. You're gonna get all different types of stories. Some are gonna be more intense than others. There's even a snuff story. So proceed with caution again, but I think that if you just want to read short stories instead of engaging into a more intense and disturbing full-length novel, then maybe these short stories will work for you. And I think if you're a horror movie lover, you're definitely gonna love this compilation. These were my book recommendations if you're looking for books that feature cursed films. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know down below if you know of any other books that have kind of like the same theme so that we can all check them out. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!